Welcome. This is Carrie Rhinehart with 5-Minute Math. Today I'm going to look at compound inequalities. If you're following along in the book, this is from Algebra 1, Unit 2, and we're looking at Lesson 8. So with compound inequalities, this is just saying that you have two bounds. It could be between the two bounds, or it could be on the outside of those two bounds. There's and there's or. So let's look at the first type. This is going to be and. So we've got 6 is less than x plus 3, which is less than 10. So with these, we want to get x by itself in the middle of this inequality. But with equations and other inequalities, what you do to one side, you've got to do the other. Here, you're going to just have to do it to 3 parts. So we need to get x by itself in the middle when you've got these type of compound inequalities, which means we need to get rid of the 3. So do the opposite and subtract 3 from all sides, all parts, so that it cancels out and x is now by itself in the middle. So we get 6 minus 3, which is 3, which is less than just x here, which is less than 7. This is our answer in inequality notation. It says that x needs to be greater than 3, and it also needs to be less than 7. I like to rewrite it so that x is out front, so I could rewrite this portion of it as x is greater than 3. Okay, if you notice, I put the x first, but the mouth is still open towards the x. And then this portion is still just x is less than 7. So we're going to draw our number line. We need to make sure that we've got 3 and 7 on it, and make sure that 3 is to the left of 7 since it is smaller. You can put other numbers on here, you don't have to. But let's start with the 3. It says that x is greater than 3. There's no equal to sign, so it's going to be open. And then we also have x is less than 7. Again, open circle on 7 because there's no equal to portion. Now, this inequality says that x needs to be greater than 3, and it also needs to be less than 7. So we shade above 3 because that's greater than 3, and we shade below 7 because that's less than 7. Okay, but it's between these two values. It doesn't go outside because it's and. It has to be between both of those bounds. So our final answer here, if we wrote it in interval notation, our left bound is 3. Sorry, I chose the wrong thing here. Our left bound is 3, and our right bound is 7. And since they're both open circles, we'd have parentheses for both of those. And you're done. Now let's look at an or compound inequality. Let me erase this. Let's say we have 2 is greater than 3x plus 2 over negative 5, or negative 4x is greater than 25. So here we have 2 inequalities to solve. I'll start with this one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is get rid of that negative 5. Again, I want to get x by itself, but I've got to deal with this because this top part is considered to be in parentheses, and when you're moving from one side to the other, you do reverse order of operations. So I need to deal with this divided by negative 5 first, which the opposite would be to multiply by negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 5 so that cancels. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. And since this is an inequality, since I've multiplied or divided both sides by a negative, I have to flip this inequality symbol. And then I'm left with 3x plus 2 on the right-hand side. Now I need to subtract the 2 from both sides so that those cancel. Again, we're trying to get x by itself. Negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12, which is less than 3x. And then our last step would be to divide by 3. So we end up with negative 4 is less than x. But I like to rewrite this with the x first. So that's x is greater than negative 4. Okay, that's one part of it. Or now we've got to do this other inequality. So to get x by itself here, I would divide by negative 4. Don't forget, since we're dividing both sides by a negative, we're going to end up switching or flipping that inequality sign. So I get x is less than, well, you can leave it as negative 25/4, or you can write it as x is less than negative 6.25. This might be easier to put on the number line. So I'm going to put this on a number line. We need to make sure we've got negative 6.25 and negative 4 on here. Make sure negative 4 is to the right of negative 6.25 because it is larger than negative 6.25. There's negative 6.25. Again, both of these are less than or greater than symbols, so they're both going to be open. So I've got an open circle at negative 6.25 and negative 4. So x is greater than negative 4. That means I'd shade to the right of it if it's greater than. And x is less than negative 6.25, so I would shade to the left of negative 6.25. So now when we write this in interval notation, I've got to go from my left bound. Well, that's negative infinity here. So I go from negative infinity to negative 7, and that's an open circle, so I have parentheses. Then I have a gap. When you have that, you put a U for union, and it starts again at negative 4, and that's an open circle, so parentheses, and then it goes on forever to infinity. So your final answer in interval notation would be this.